Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. We talked a lot about the trade deadline, and it turned out we didn't have to wait very longer because after we recorded it, maybe an hour after, the Braves made two moves. They're not huge moves. The bigger one is Pierce Johnson getting a guy who had served basically as their closer. Him and Daniel Bard had kind of split closer duties, which you wouldn't notice from his ERA. It's a 6.00, and I know that's the first thing everybody looked at, but I want to ease the concerns because listen, the Braves didn't give up much here. Victor Vodnik and Tanner Gordon are two guys that were probably never going to play at the major league level for the Braves. Don't look at their prospects status, where they are ranked on MLB.com for a number of reasons, which I explained in an article on the site at sportstalkatl.com. Go check it out. This Johnson guy intrigues me because these are the kind of moves that the Braves have made in the past that have just panned out time and time and time again. Under the radar guys. Jorge Soler was hitting below 200, comes up, was great for the Braves, wins World Series MVPs. These guys that have upside, they've been good in the past. They think they can fix them. They come to Atlanta, they get fixed. Now, there's a number of reasons to be excited about this deal. One, he's a power pitcher that can strike guys out. Everyone's been asking for guys who can throw in the high 90s and strike people out. This guy's striking out 13.4 batters per 9 innings. The second reason is, guys, he's playing at Coors Field. You look at his number away from Coors Field, he has like a FIP of 2.31 and an XFIP of 2.79, which is elite. He's also striking out 40% of the batters he faced on the road. And you look at the track record too. He pitched in San Diego, a much more hitter-friendly. You go from the most pitcher-friendly ballpark to the least, and yeah, there's going to be some negative results. He had a very good track record with San Diego, like a 3.3 ERA, 3.1 FIP. He was a very good reliever, constant strikeout numbers over 33%. This guy has some potential here. And listen, you don't trade up much and you upgrade the bullpen. You take a chance on a lottery ticket arm. Like, think of this as like a more likely to succeed in the later innings version of Kirby Yates. Like, they took a shot on Kirby Yates. Hasn't worked out as we all hope, but he's been pretty good. I think Johnson could be even better than that because of his power arm and stuff like that. And I just think coming to a contender and moving away from the Rockies, a very bad organization, moving away from Coors Field, all these things, like, they're going to make him a better pitcher. So I can guarantee you he will not have a 6 ERA in Atlanta. Will he become a high leverage guy like we hope? Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe not. But you got some insurance for the bullpen. Now I think the meat of it is very good. Like, we talked about all those guys. Maybe he has a potential to get on the level as a Mentor Iglesias. I still think that's something you're chasing at the deadline. But I like this move.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed all the bullet points. So I'll just reiterate a little bit just from my point of view. Moving away from Coors Field, the Braves having a better pitching staff as a whole, a better offense, everything like that is going to make him look better. And playing for a contender generally brings out the best in these elite athletes, especially in a place like Atlanta where they give you every single thing you could possibly think of that you would need to succeed, whether it's, tangibly or intangibly, catering to your family or catering to your needs as an actual player. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure you have everything you need to succeed. And with that being said, the Braves gave up, and I know you don't like MLB.com's prospect rankings, but let's just use that for argument's sake. They had Victor Vodnik as our 10th rated prospect in the Braves farm system. He's now the 20th in the Rockies farm system, which is generally, depending on the outlet that you looked at, they're average. They're anywhere from the 16th rated to the 14th to the 18th. They're right around league average. So that just shows you, the Braves farm system is absolutely terrible. So just because we traded our 10th best prospect doesn't mean he's going to be everybody's 10th best prospect. In fact, he's probably shouldn't be in any top 20 farm system out that is like within the top 20 across the league. And with that being said, you said it. He's a punch out guy. I think his K per 9 strikeout per 9 innings is tied for 4th in the league. Which is just something, this bullpen doesn't necessarily have, like you said, that high-powered arm. I wouldn't get my hopes up about him being a high-leverage guy. Though he was a closer in Colorado, he's not a closer anymore because he did struggle. So more than anything, they gave up very little for a flyer, a low-risk, high-reward guy. And that shouldn't shock anybody because that's Alex Anthopoulos' MO.
Yeah. And about just looking at Vodnik, I think Vodnik he's kind of a power arm in himself. He's a high strikeout guy with a high 90s fastball. The thing is, he's basically turned in primarily to a reliever. So, like, yes, he might be the 20th most talented prospect, but as far as value, there's a lot less value in relievers. Like, I have trouble even putting guys that are strictly relievers in my top 20 prospects of good or of bad farm systems because there's just so little value. They're so volatile. There's so many other reasons. So this was not a valuable piece the Braves gave up. At most, Vodnik would have came up if he reached his peak and been a good reliever in a couple of years. When you're trying to push all in, and plus, what have I said a million times? These guys, the Braves are the best at evaluating their internal prospects. If they thought Vodnik was going to come up and maybe be an AJ Minter type, he would not be headed anywhere, even if it was going to take a year or two. So they got the sense that he was not going to, maybe makes the majors, maybe he doesn't, maybe he struggles in the majors, maybe he carves out a little career, but they got the sense that this guy wasn't going to be elite. Tanner Gordon, 25-year-old prospect, basically a nothing. Like, he was never going to be a pitcher in Atlanta. That was never going to happen. So that's literally nothing that you gave up. Vodnik's the only piece here that's anything. But I call this, and this is what I laughed about when people were immediately look at the ERA and say, this guy's a bum, this guy's this. This is the Alex Anthopoulos special, guys. This is what he does. Like, this is his specialty, finding value where nowhere else is looking, whether it's on the waiver wire, whether it's like claiming people, whether it's trading people for cash, whether it's what. Nobody is better at evaluating talent across the league, not just and the little guys. Tyler Matzik, Jackson Stevens from last time, Dylan Lee, then you can go to the Jorge Solers and those of the world where they were not having great years before they came here. Time and time, Michael Tonkin, there is so many countless examples of him taking shots on guys who are underachieved or who have not quite got there, because he has guys out there in the Mexican League. He has guys out there at Indie Ball, slamming the table, hey, get this guy. There was a reason they made this trade on July 24th. They could have probably waited it out. They like Pierce Johnson enough to where they could have waited to July 31st or whatever, August 1st, and made this deal and maybe risk someone else sliding in or something. They made this deal on July 24th for a reason. They like this guy. I'm telling you, I high leverage or not, you got a guy in there and you got some insurance. Now let's talk about Taylor Hearn. Switch the thing. He's a lefty that they basically traded for cash from the Rangers. Listen, the Rangers are a competitive team that don't have an elite bullpen by any means. So even with Aroldis Chapman. So if he was anything special, they probably wouldn't have traded him. So, but again, is this another Alex Anthopoulos specialty? On the Hearn aspect, I think he's a lefty reliever. The Braves don't have a lot of lefties. He's got options, so he can be on the major league roster now while guys are hurt, but they can also option him and stash him in case more injuries arise. So that's the thought process there. People are like, well, oh, you had a 10.2 ERA. All right, I get it. It was 4 appearances. That doesn't mean he's the worst pitcher of all time.
Yeah, a couple of things. Not really analysis, just talking as, baseball guys. More so Johnson than Hearn. Hearn came from the Rangers. They're a contender. Imagine, these guys aren't dumb. They know if they're on expiring contracts, if they're relievers, they know who's likely to get traded and who's not. Imagine you're Johnson and you go from the Rockies, which is, for all intents and purposes, a terrible organization. They don't have a lot of fan support up there in Colorado. And then you go to the World Series favorite with the best fan base in baseball. It's not any analysis, but that's got to feel good knowing you get that call and you're like, hey, you're going to the Atlanta Braves. I would be so ecstatic. I know we're Braves fans, obviously have a little bias, but just in general, going from one of the worst organizations like Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, going from the A's to the Braves, these guys have got to feel so good when they get that call and you're going to Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And then just continuing, you're on a championship contender with 11.5 game lead. There's not a ton of pressure for you to just thrive right away. I think you can kind of ease your way into the expectations that are here in Atlanta. And
you don't have to be the guy. You don't have to be the guy because there's so many. Yeah,
but just the pressure of being on a contender, which I do think could be a factor, you kind of get to ease in to that because you got an 11.5 game lead. It's not as important as you're in the middle of a pennant race or something like that. Get ready for October. And that's another thing that I like about this deal. Coming up after the break, Alex Anthopoulos says the Braves may not be done. Who could be next to be traded to Atlanta?